Daniel chapter 3, the golden statue. King Nebuchadnezzar made a statue 90 feet high and 9 feet wide, and he set it in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to assemble the satraps, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, all the rulers of the provinces to attend the dedication of the statue to King Nebuchadnezzar that he had set up. So all these ones gathered together, the satrap, prefects, governors, advisors, judges, treasurers, magistrates, all the rulers assembled for the dedication of the statue the king had set up. They stood before the statue that he had set, and a herald loudly proclaimed, "People of every nation and language, you are commanded, when you hear the sound of the flute, the zephyr, the lyre, the harp, the drum, and every kind of instrument, you are to fall down and worship the gold statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. But whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into the furnace of blazing fire." Therefore, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, the flute, the zephyr, the lyre, the harp, and every kind of instrument, people of every nation fell down and worshipped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Some of the Chaldeans took this occasion to come forward and maliciously accuse the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "May you live forever. You as king have issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of these instruments should fall down and do an act of worship to the golden statue. And whoever does not fall down to worship will be thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. There are some Jews you have appointed to manage the province of Babylon: Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. These men have ignored you, O king. They have not served you as gods or worshipped the golden statue set up." Then in furious rage, Nebuchadnezzar gave the orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, is this true that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden statue that I have set up? Now if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn and every kind of instrument, you should fall down and worship the statue that I made. But if you do not, you will immediately be thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God that can rescue you from my power?" These three answered the king, "We don't need to give you an answer to this question. But if God we serve can, he can rescue us from the furnace of blazing fire. And if he can rescue us from the power of the king. But even if he does not rescue us, we want you as king to know that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden statue you've set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage, and the expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he gave orders to heat the furnace up 7 times more than customary. And he commanded some of the strongest soldiers in the army to tie the 3 men up and throw them into the furnace of blazing fire. So these men in their robes and head coverings and other clothing were tied up and thrown into the furnace of blazing fire. Since the king commanded was so urgent, the furnace extremely hot, the raging flames killed the men who carried Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego up. And these 3 men fell bound into the furnace of blazing fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in alarm. He said to his advisors, "Did we throw 3 men bound in the fire?" "Yes, of course, your majesty," they replied to the king. He examined. "Look, I see 4 not tied, walking around in the furnace unharmed, and the 4 looks like a son of God." Nebuchadnezzar then approached the door of the furnace of blazing fire and called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High God, come out." So the men came out of the fire. And when the satraps, prefects, governors, and the king's advisors gathered around, they saw that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men. Not a hair of their heads was singed, their robes were not engulfed, and there was no smell of fire upon them. Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel and rescued his servants who trusted him. They violated the king's command at risk of their own lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own. Therefore I issue a decree to any one of these people of the nation or language says anything to offend against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be torn limb from limb and his house made into a garbage dump. And there is no other God who is able to deliver like this. Then the king rewarded the men in the province of Babylon.